Sabrina and I's show Third Ants from the Sun. It starts with Zelda telling Sabrina no to getting her belly button pierced, even though she might be happy with it in the long run. Sabrina could use magic for this, so the reason she won't has to be her assumption that she'll eventually forget to temporarily zap away the piercing and reveal to her by accident, which would cause Zelda to punish her. Same reason she didn't warp away from her family reunion. Even Hilda disapproves of the idea, despite being the fun one, and assumes she'll regret it. Somehow, she says she had to wait years to get rid of a tattoo, even though witches can alter the way stuff looks, so she would have removed it herself instantly. She already lied about where the tattoo was, so logically she's lying about this in general. Sabrina would definitely question this. Witches can just zap up tattoos, so it's not like she just got a tattoo from a tattoo witch who had enchanted so that you have to get a tattoo removal because capitalism. Then Zelda magically summons a bone in her nose to punish her, and somehow she thinks she has to ask her aunt to get rid of the bone. If any witch could lock their spells, that'd be really dangerous. Jenny says her parents are really lenient with her, which makes it too hard for her to rebel. So Sabrina's lucky she has annoyingly strict aunts for this one episode so far. The teacher ends up getting very itchy, so he runs out of the room and is replaced by a teacher who mentions moisturizer in science class. So Sabrina somehow asks what moisturizer has to do with science, even though you need science to make it. She does a science lecture that has her say what's probably nonsense since she says to forget everything she said. The classroom leaves and the teacher tells Sabrina to stay. She expects her to recognize her. That alone was somehow expected to make her recognize her Aunt Vesta. And she uses magic to have just a different outfit. I love that she has at the end of her name, and the same amount of syllables as Hilda and Zelda, so it feels right that she's their sister out of nowhere. I have to assume the reason she took so long to reconnect with her was that she was so busy partying she never checked up on her sister's witch social media posts because she thinks they're boring, but still occasionally checked on them because they're family. Sabrina says she needs to get to class, but the teacher stops her and warps her to Paris where there's already a table ready for her with a big bowl of coffee, so she'll get in trouble for being late. I hope her coffee makes up for it. I guess she already had the table reserved for them ahead of time. I guess it's another realm place, so she doesn't care about the cameras in restaurants that would have caught them warping here. Or she already plans to remove camera footage from it. Sabrina says that the weirdest thing is that she missed French class to be here. She sadly doesn't explain what her weirdest thing is, and perfectly imitates the voices of her sisters and predicts what Zelda told her not to do, which is justified because she used to live with them for 200 years. Vesta reveals her bigotry against mortals in a calm way and gets reminded that Sabrina's half-mortal, and she says there's nothing wrong with that. It's trying to use this to foreshadow that she's not worth it, but Hilda was willing to slice up Libby when she was a pineapple and Zelda didn't hold it against her, so she's not alone in this. This episode comes off like the writer didn't watch the previous episodes, because I don't know where he's getting the idea that her aunts are strict. Vesta's smart enough to lie in a clever way that she gave her teacher a bug, and really has to defend himself from a giant bug in his bathroom because Vesta's evil. But he's supposed to be in the school. She must have warped him home and he convinced himself he only dreamed going to school and slept in. It's actually cool of him to fight back against a giant bug. Vesta's smart enough to live in the pleasure dome of the other realm. I guess the reason Sabrina's not afraid of her aunts when she goes home after ditching all of her classes for the day is that she thinks Vesta would protect her, and when she leaves they won't be mad anymore because it was Vesta's fault. And the aunts lecture Vesta, who asks if anything ever changes here. Hilda uses magic to summon furniture. Which reminds me, I forgot to mention that the aunts are trying to decide how to change the look of the furniture. Vesta asks the aunts if they have fun here, and Hilda says they do now, but not how, which proves Vesta right. Does the writer know what he's doing? Does the show with Hilda? Because Hilda was always the fun one. It just wasn't the type of fun that Sabrina approved of. Zelda says she was invited to Texas for a science meeting for the weekends because apparently she has an off-screen job we don't know about. And Hilda just got invited to a music concert to play it. So Vesta offers to babysit Sabrina at the Pleasure Dome instead of at their house. I guess the reason the ants didn't demand to have her stay at the house is that they thought she wouldn't agree to it. It's so sympathetic of Sabrina that she says that she wants to go to the Pleasure Dome but is afraid that if she's too enthusiastic they won't let her. Of course there's a no mortals rule in the Pleasure Dome. Why bother putting it here? It's just because they hate mortals. But naturally Sabrina overlooks it because it's a fun place where just one door shows you a dance room where an amazing coincidence they're playing the exact song Sabrina liked in the morning. And in the second door they see an audience cheering and complimenting her, even though it's fake so who cares. Zelda finds out there was no theoretical physics conference, which is more believable. And Hilda was stuck in a music band playing at a loud place. Zelda warns her that Vesta tricked them. And Vesta convinces Sabrina to stop doing homework and naturally asks why she can't have fun all the time. Sadly, Sabrina doesn't get to argue that if you do, you'll feel unfulfilled, which would make this a valuable lesson for adults, not just teens who of course need to do homework if they're bad at school, so they'll do tests well and be able to get a good job, which is the message we're supposed to be getting. But how are we supposed to be getting it if it's not explained? And she's not ever shown in this episode to fail a test because of the Pleasure Dome, by the way. I guess the writer thinks that just because Sabrina's a teen, she's too stupid to think to tell her the reasons why you can't have fun all the time. And that's why he didn't have her say that. Eventually, Sabrina somehow gets given the choice about whether she can stay here with Vesta or not, even though they're supposedly strict ants. Hilda says they can't just leave her, and Zelda says it's because she has a hunch. Sabrina feels guilty, and Zelda says that if they tell Sabrina she can't stay, she'll be playing into Vesta's game. And she thinks she'll come home if she's given the chance to change her mind. But Sabrina showed no indication around them at any point in the show that she was responsible enough to value getting all of her homework done. She showed no career aspirations in front of them. I guess we're supposed to assume that she did off-screen. Vesta likes the massage and magically takes the place of the masseuse and says this is relaxing, which must be because she likes doing good, which means she feels unfulfilled and empty about just having fun all day and not doing good. I guess this was unintentional of the writer, because this kind of thing only happens once. Too bad, because it could have added depth to her character if she explained it, and actually gotten the message across. Jenny's able to call Sabrina because her aunts gave it to her, and she says she has the weirdest 17-digit area code. Vesta tries to reassure Sabrina about not being able to hang out with Jenny by showing her a puppy, which doesn't help her. Sabrina says that if she stays here, she won't be able to see her friends again, even though she can just warp to them. Vesta reassures her that she'll be able to see her loved ones again whenever with the TV. So she sees her aunts having fun playing an old game together. What makes her think she won't want to hug them because she's seeing them? Like, how's that supposed to be good enough? I guess she doesn't like any of her family. Salem's singing the same song Sabrina liked, I guess because it's playing too much on the radio. Harvey's doing the same while jumping on the bed. And Jenny's reading a book, bored. And while Sabrina fortunately pities her, Vesta's hopefully just suppressing her pity for her by saying she's pathetic. Sabrina's told she looks fabulous, but her boots are killing her. And Vesta encourages her to have fun dancing with some dancers and singing a song that's probably made up for the show because it only plays the chorus and is done so much and sounds silly. Whammy fammy, Mr. Poole was right to make fun of it. It's such a restrictive dance that if she has to stay on that one tiny spot that's higher up than the floor, she's gonna risk falling. She feels bad enough to end the song because she misses Jenny. Vesta says she'd be so lonely without her, but that's not enough to have her agree to live with her aunts, of course. She zaps up her bag and they hug and she lets her leave. I like that the show doesn't vilify her as much as possible. She opens the door to the cheering people and says so empty, but it works. What a mixed message. Realistically, her aunts did hear Sabrina from the other room. Sabrina's asked if she liked her time with Vesta. She hugs them, and Hilda says she can go to Jenny but can't stay up past 1. That's still a long time she gets to stay up, past the point of healthiness. When you're a teenager, because of the way your brain works, you need to get to bed early more than ever, because you're going to be tired and cranky in the morning. She's magically given new clothes and thanks her aunts for not making a big deal out of this. She leaves and they do. And the teacher gets to look cool fighting some bug. So I am fine with action scenes in Sabrina, as long as it's not the main characters doing it. Because that never happens in the source material. And also, it's supposed to be funny, so it's still keeping the point of the series. Then he wakes up on the floor and says, "What a dream." I guess the spell wore off after enough time had passed. Make him only think it was a dream. Because Vesta was surprisingly paranoid enough to try to make sure witchcraft wasn't revealed, even though he could have just assumed it was a demon, and no one would believe him, and any photo or video of it would be called fake. This story by Nick Bakay was about Sabrina spending time with her fun Aunt Vesta because she's fun and Vesta's lonely. And somebody forgot to tell the writers and showrunners that Hilda's supposed to be fun. Not literally this fun, though. And after briefly deciding to live with her in the Pleasure Dome, she decided to go home because she somehow wouldn't be able to see her friends again if she didn't. Even though she should be able to warp back home to keep going back to school every day. So the place has to be enchanted against warping out of it for no reason to contrive the story ending. Or she just believed a lie of Vesta's about that. Why would the Pleasure Dome actually forbid you from regularly going to school, when Sabrina and the aunts were still allowed to visit it like it was nothing? I like that the story didn't try as hard as possible to vilify Vesta. While she's clearly meant to be a bad influence because she pressures her not to do homework in favor of having fun, it's not because she wants to sabotage her life. She's trying to help her become happier. And a lot of the time, it is good to take her advice that you should try to focus on the fun in life. Another way it didn't vilify her is that we didn't see her fail a test because of her. But people like me can't just do what they like most with all their free time after they grow up, because they'll feel guilty for not doing something more with it. And it's not explained that that's why Sabrina decides to leave. So it doesn't properly get the message across. It would make more sense if she was missing her aunts the most, and that's why she wanted to leave. Most people, including me, would have walked away from this thinking that the only reason Sabrina was justified in leaving was that she was being pressured not to do homework. So you have to assume because she's the average girl that she needs homework to test well. But after she decided to stay, it didn't matter anymore because she wouldn't have been able to keep going to school anyway, apparently, if she stayed. So the story should have explained that Sabrina's got a specific career aspiration that she won't get to fulfill otherwise, instead of her looking like an idiot if you don't think about that. It doesn't clearly tell her that she's got a bright future she'll give up if she stays there. But anyone would assume that. But anyone who was against the message of the episode the whole time would think because of Vesta's logic that it'd be worth giving up going to high school with Harvey in exchange for a life of constant fun. That she could just sap up a Harvey. Sabrina never explains that she feels like the fun is hollow after a while, like I was expecting, which would have taught the lesson right. She doesn't zap up a fake Jenny and realize that it doesn't feel right. It's a good episode, because it's fun to see her have fun so much. And it still portrays Vesta as human, even if she's evil sometimes. We could all use a little Vesta in us. Vesta doesn't really get a chance to argue her points eloquently either. She doesn't say that it's good self-care mentally to have fun a lot, and you'll be depressed eventually if you go too far in the other direction. I guess she's not that eloquent. It never explains why Sabrina doesn't keep visiting the Pleasure Dome every day after this point.